Well, Quinion Mitchell showed out just like he said he would at the NFL Combine.
I didn't come here to be mediocre. I came here to break records and stuff like that, so just compete in that aspect.
And while he didn't actually break any records, he did manage to run a 4.3340, second only to Nate Wiggins, who we'll talk about a little bit later. And he put up 20 reps of 225 pounds on the bench press. He was one of the few cornerbacks that actually went through the bench press drill, too. Overall, I would say he did what he intended to do, and I would say he's continuing to rise up draft boards everywhere. Going back to Wiggins, though, he's one of the guys the Packers did meet with at the NFL Combine. Unfortunately, he kind of tweaked his groin a little bit on that 40, so we didn't get to see a whole lot of testing from him. But the surprising thing to me there is that he's a little bit underneath the Packers' typical threshold for cornerbacks. He's in the 183 to 185 pound kind of range. He needs to get another like 10 pounds or so before he would potentially be on like a big target by Green Bay's typical standards. But maybe that speed that he has, maybe he's going to be a little bit more of a Jair Alexander type mold, and, he might be worth it just based on that speed alone. Scrappy physical corner like him, plays above his size, which is nice. Meanwhile, some of the other guys at cornerback that stood out, Elijah Jones, who I talked about in a video a few weeks ago, Boston College guy, familiarity with Jeff Hafley, Max Melton, brother of Bo Melton, some guys that should be on the Packers' radar, and they're actually testing pretty damn well. They were both showing off their explosiveness with their broad jump and vertical jump skills, which they're both in the top 3 or top 5 of those groups. And they both ran right around 4.4. Melton ran a 4.39. Jones ran a 4.44. So pretty similar speeds there. One guy that didn't really show his speed all that well, though, was Ennis Rakestraw Jr. And he was a little bit, underwhelming in some of his speed. Like, I would say that he plays faster than that from watching his tape, but it was a little underwhelming there. And overall, he was kind of middling across the board with all of his testing numbers. So if he can't fix that, that might take him, kind of out of consideration at pick 25 for Green Bay. Now, if he falls to 41 or say 57, he might still be in play there, but we'll go to see what that looks like. On the safety side, Tyler Nubin didn't do any testing. We did hear from him in an interview during the week, but Cam Kinchens did, and maybe he shouldn't have. It was a little bit underwhelming. Not exactly a speed guy, at least in his testing. It does look like he runs faster than what he ran, which he ran a 4.65 for his 40, which is generally not going to cut it for the Packers at safety. Like I said, he plays faster than that. The range he showed on the field actually playing safety would imply that he's got better speed than that. And it's not like he's playing in some small school against little to no competition. Like, Power 5 school, ACC competition. If he can't test better at his pro day, he might have tested it out of Green Bay's board as well. So another guy to keep an eye on there. And the last guy I want to mention is taylor-demerson. And he had the fastest 40 of all the safeties, which is a big plus. But he also played pretty well on the field. He actually made a really nice fingertip grab on an underthrown deep ball that he was covering in the drill. And, he's somebody that I definitely want to go back and watch some more of his film at Texas Tech, because he is definitely in play for the Packers as safety. Moving on to day 3, though, we're looking at the running backs and receivers primarily. Just a few receivers, because that's not a big area of need for the Packers, but running back is definitely somewhere that we need to make an investment, especially, hearing, rumor mill that potentially Aaron Jones could be cut to try to recoup some cap savings there and re-signed. I hope it doesn't come to that. I don't think it will, because I'm pretty confident Jones wants to remain a Packer, and the Packers definitely want to keep Jones around. But that cap hit that he has is a little untenable. But some of the guys that we might be looking at, so the first guy that you really have to mention after seeing this running back group is Isaac Guerendo. Former Badger, transfer turned Louisville Cardinal running back. Isaac Guerendo tore up the combine, just showed off his ridiculous physicality. He's 6 feet tall, 221 pounds, but ran the fastest 40 with a 4.33. That is moving for a guy that big. And I don't think it's just that he's a workout warrior. His speed shows on the field too. So even with pads on, and he can lower the boom to some guys as well. But impressive dude. And then on top of that, he had the highest vertical, and he was second longest in the broad jump as well. So he's got to be somebody that you at least consider. So somebody to keep their eye on. The guy who actually beat Guerendo out on the broad jump was Jalen Wright, who's another guy the Packers should keep an eye on. Compared a lot to Aaron Jones just from a size and, elusiveness kind of characteristic. But not a small back still, 5'10", 5'11"-ish, 210 pounds, ran a 4.38, still very fast, quick. And then he also had that 11-foot, 2-inch broad jump. Just shows some of his lower body explosiveness that he has. The other guy that I really wanted to bring back here on the running backs was Michigan's Blake Corum, who we've seen mocked to the Packers a lot. A lot of, Big Ten fans in, the Wisconsin area, really familiar with Blake Corum. And honestly, he killed some of these workouts, He said he would run somewhere in the 4.5 range. He ended up running a 4.53. Not a bad speed for a running back, especially one of his size. Bigger guy, 220-ish pounds. And the biggest thing for him was his quickness. And he showed it not only in, the 3-cone and the 20-yard shuttle, which he was top 3 running back performers in both of those groups, but it showed in his field work as well. Cutting and reacting to the bags that he was, placed in front of on the field. And he was just fluid and smooth and quick. So really looking forward to seeing some more of him as the draft process unfolds. Oh, and he did bench press, and he put up 27 reps of the bench press, edging out the freak athlete from Wisconsin, Braylon Allen, by 1 rep as well. An impressive feat to be able to, move that quickly, but then also have that kind of power that he showed, in an upper body kind of perspective. And that'll do him well in pass protection in the NFL. Then, moving on to the receivers, I have to start by saying, if I didn't love Rome Odunze before, I love him now. The clip that circulated around social media of him being the last guy on the field, refusing to stop doing the 3-cone drill because he kept hitting the last, the turnaround cone on the drill, and he wasn't able to get his time of 6.6 that he was aiming for. So he was out there long after everybody else was off the field, kept going. And when he was asked, he just said, I'm out here trying to work, trying to get better. And that kind of attitude is absolutely outstanding. Not only that, it's matched with the fact that he's got outrageous physical talent on the football field as well. But there's no chance that he's going to fall anywhere near where Green Bay is going to pick. So that, is just a pipe dream at this point. But it would be so fantastic. And it's hard not to like a guy like that. But some guys that are actually in Green Bay's range, let's go ahead and start with the guys that they met with. And that starts with Adonai Mitchell from Texas. One of the 2 Texas receivers that the Packers met with. A little bit bigger bodied guy, still very physically gifted, fast, ran a 4.34 for the 40, jumped 39.5 inches. Caught the ball really well and was really fluid in and out of his breaks during the field work. And one of the things that was a little bit, remarkable to me was just, how fluid he is moving. It's almost as if you don't realize how fast he is because he is a long strider with that longer build that he has. But it doesn't stop him from being able to quickly and suddenly move in and out of breaks, which you can see in the tape as well when he was at not only Georgia, but when he transferred to Texas for his junior year. And then his teammate, Xavier Worthy, ran the fastest 40 in NFL Combine history. And he's a little bit smaller receiver, small enough to the point that I don't think there's almost any chance that Green Bay would actually take him, but they did meet with him. He weighs 163 pounds, which is far below Green Bay's weight thresholds for receiver. But at that speed, anything can go. And another guy that's been a favorite of Packers mock drafts all over the internet has been Keon Coleman, especially, people who aren't giving up on the dream of a first-round receiver for the Packers, for the last 2 decades plus now at this point. He's in that kind of range, but probably dropped a little bit from that now because he ended up running a 4.61 in his 40, which is a little bit slow, but he is a bigger bodied guy. But, maybe that doesn't really matter because when he ran the gauntlet drill, he was tested, or at least through Next Gen Stats, showed that he had the fastest overall, speed going through the gauntlet. And he was moving 20 plus miles per hour while he was going through the gauntlet and caught everything. Very fluid, straight down the line on that gauntlet drill. Really impressive. So maybe he's still in play there, but willing blocker, a bigger bodied guy that, might be the type of skill set that the Packers would look for at receiver. But one of my favorite receivers coming out of the Combine weekend was Luke McCaffrey, brother of Packers legend Max McCaffrey, who spent a little bit of time on our practice squad. And obviously, Christian McCaffrey, that whole family, just ridiculous athleticism from Ed McCaffrey back in the 90s playing for the Niners and the Broncos, but also his mother is a track athlete. So that's where they all get their speed from. But Luke McCaffrey actually ran slightly faster than Christian McCaffrey did at the Combine. He put in a 4.46, and at a size of 6'2", 213 pounds, I believe it was, pretty good speed for his size. But then he also topped it with, being in the top 2 for both the 3-cone and the 20-yard shuttle. So he's got size, speed, quickness, and then in the field work, he also showed that he is pretty fluid in and out of his breaks as a receiver, and also, a natural catcher of the football. And just ended up topping 20 miles per hour in route several times, running some of his receiver routes, routes on air, again, no pads and all of that. But still an impressive overall performance for Luke McCaffrey, and somebody that, a little bit later on, 4th, maybe 5th round kind of pick territory for a guy coming out of Rice, a smaller school. This could be a potential target for the Packers on a spot that they don't necessarily need to upgrade, but you take a flyer on a guy like that maybe. And, that's just an interesting guy to watch moving forward. And, before we get out of here and finish up this recap of day 2 and 3 of the Combine, I do want to mention that we did meet with the quarterback. By no means is that, signed, sealed, delivered. Goody did talk about how he wanted to kind of get back to the Ron Wolf kind of philosophy of, draft a quarterback every year, which isn't meant literally, but generally speaking, you see the guys that they picked up in the early Favre years, they kept drafting guys. Or when they drafted Aaron Rodgers, they drafted Brian Braum in the same draft, and they drafted Matt Flynn shortly thereafter. So there's a lot of guys that we brought in and just kind of churn the bottom of that quarterback room, keep bringing in new guys, because if it turns out that you hit on one of these guys, not even to be your starting quarterback, that is incredible trade value on the market to trade a quarterback to any number of these teams, because every year there's probably 6 to 10 teams in the NFL that, generally speaking, are looking to upgrade at the quarterback position. So if you can draft and develop them and then kick them out and, we end up, even if it's a comp pick, if they sign somewhere in free agency, it's still value added to this Packers roster. So we did meet with a quarterback. It was Tulane's Michael Pratt, a guy that's kind of climbing some draft boards right now and somebody to keep an eye on, obviously, as the Packers met with him. But, that's generally it. That's the end of the day 2 and day 3 recap that I have for you. I'll be back tomorrow with a recap of the final day, which is the offensive line group. And, that's definitely a fan favorite in the Packers, who love to build through the trenches and really love to hit on some of these kind of mid-round guys. And we'll see some of those that really stood out at the combine. But they could also be in play for one of those guys at pick 25. So I don't know. What do you think? Are we going to go offensive line at 25? Comment down below. We'll see you in the next one.